Hello, everyone. Welcome to Consciousness Unfiltered. I am Dr. Anthony Mattis, and I am joined by my very good friend, Emily Russell, Access Consciousness Certified Facilitator, biology high school teacher. She's got a master's degree in teaching, and an amazing mother of two beautiful little girls, Sevi and Nelly. There you go. Twisted X-Men brain.
Right.
So here, Emily, thank you so much for being on this podcast. And can you talk a little bit about what was your life like before you even heard of Access? Like, where were you in your life? What was it that you were sort of looking for that might have been different than what was actually showing up, and what attracted you to Access from the very start?
That's a great question. So I was, like you said, I used to be a high school teacher.
Yeah.
And before that, I was kind of I would travel around, and I was a waitress. I'd save some money and then I'd travel. And I was kind of in, through my early 20s, I don't know what I want to do with my life. What am I here for? I know I should have a purpose. Some of my friends knew exactly what they wanted to do from the time they were in college. And I didn't have that. I was interested in so much. And part of it was meeting new people and seeing new countries, and that. So I did that for a while. And then when I thought I should settle down and get a real job, I taught in Japan for a year. And so that inspired me to know, I actually really love working with people and teaching. So then got my master's in teaching and taught biology for a while. Really that job it's a really rewarding job. You're working, every day's different. Kids I got to work with were these phenomenal, just incredibles in Chicago. Just wonderful. And I still, even with that level of gratification, there was something where I was like, I like this. And what else is there? I want to be making some other impacts, but I didn't know how I could do that. Yeah.
So you sort of perceived this possibility, but you didn't whatever that was, there wasn't anything concrete about it, because there was nothing in the everyday life stuff that sort of matched what you knew was possible. Is that kind of, you're it's something else, I just don't really know what or where or
well, those people you admire, they're like, wow, look what they're creating in the world. And so as a biology teacher, Jane Goodall, famous primate researcher, and there was a book, and I think who wrote it, he's the guy from the Kripalu Institute, maybe Stephen Cope, and it's called Your Life's Purpose or Your Life's Work or something. And this is when I would read all these books and make myself very wrong for not knowing my life's purpose. So I remember there's a story in there about Jane Goodall being 4 years old. If you've ever been around a 4-year-old, this makes this even more amazing. She snuck off because she was so curious of how a chicken actually laid an egg that she sat quietly in a chicken coop for 9 hours waiting for a chicken to lay its egg. And her parents were thought she had been kidnapped, right? Because she was just quietly waiting. And anyway, there's so many examples of people. And I was like, wow, why didn't I know what I want to do? And what is that? And there's something. And so I just was in that state of knowing I would like something different, but didn't know what it was. And that was, I was reading that about the time when I'd had my first daughter. And I'm sorry if is that my computer making noise? I'm trying to shut everything.
No worries.
And I had my first daughter, and I wasn't working then. I chose to stop teaching for a while and be a stay-at-home mom, and loved that. And then also was ooh, now I have so much creative energy. What else could I be creating? So I was reading all these books, and then I had my second daughter and had quite a dramatic birth with her. It was supposed to be a home birth. And so I had postpartum depression basically after that. And so from that space, I was, I became a yoga teacher, but right before I had her, I was in the training to become a yoga teacher right after she was born, actually. And I was in the training. I'd done that. I had a daily meditation practice. And none of those were taking away that angsty, everything seemed wrong. I felt like I had kind of ruined my child from her birth. That wasn't perfect. And so I was like, wow, this isn't working. And I came across Access Bars, which is intro class of Access Consciousness. I have no idea what it is. No clue.
intro, but not intro. It's just the first place you start, but it's really not. It's like that. The bar is still a lifesaver, you're right. Even as far as we've gone with all the advanced classes, it's like it's where you start, but it's not where you end. I mean, the bars goes on forever. So what a gift that is.
Yeah, and it was, and I had gone into, I stumbled across it, like how the universe works.
Okay.
Going to her for something else for my daughter, like because she had rashes everywhere, and I thought, oh, and then she had this little picture of a head chart with all the bars points.
Oh, cool.
Like, wow, what is that? And this is where like you talk a lot about knowing, like trusting your body and how your body communicates with you. And it's like my body wanted to jump towards that little sign. I was like, what is that? So rather than getting a session from her, she said, well, I have a class, so you could come and learn how to do it. And then we trade every week. And that was the beginning of something that I had no idea at the time, but I was just looking to get out of the pain of kind of the depression and the sadness from the birth.
Yeah.
But it started to open up everything that I was looking for, like this bigger, like what else was possible in the world. And it got me out of the wrongness of not knowing what I wanted to do, the wrongness of thinking I was a horrible mom. The bar starts to take away that sense of stress and everything is wrong and judgment.
Right. So how long was that after you had the baby to when you actually took your first bars class? Like how long had you been struggling with the postpartum depression and stuff? 6 months. 6 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So that's a long time to sit with that. You know what I mean? It's like just being depressed for one day feels like 100 years.
Especially for me, I'm not I mean, we all have good days and bad days, but I'm not normally, and to feel like I was meditating every day and like using the tools I had and doing everything, this isn't working.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, one thing I know about you is like you love creating. You don't ever really stop. So was that something like when you were struggling with that, did you find yourself not creating as much as you would have liked at the time or like the way you normally do? Because you're always going. Like I know you as someone who's always moving no matter what. With like what did that actually create in your universe besides judging yourself as a bad parent? You know, and
I mean, it's interesting to look back to then because I definitely didn't have much energy at all. I was still me and kind of bubbly, but I felt tired all the time. And I think because I didn't have a way to, I mean, for the first couple of weeks, I couldn't even couldn't come up with it. We did name my daughter, but I also I just couldn't connect with her. Felt very disconnected from people and things. And that way I normally just be kind of in the world.
Right.
And those tools weren't changing it. So then when I went to the bars class, and again, I was someone that never thought putting my hands on someone would change anything. I went to other people to do that. Like I really loved great massage therapists or energy workers I had gone to, but I never conceived that was something everybody could do with just their hands.
Right. Right.
And I was at a place where, and I think my facilitator in that class said, anything here today, just look at it as like another tool to add to your toolbox. And some things might work for you, some might not, but they're just here for you to check out and play with. And for me, having a science background, I was like, I will try anything. I will, and see and practically if this works to change stuff. And so that class, just being in class and getting my bars run for the first time, I got off the table and I was like, this was like I just meditated for 24 hours. I've ever done that. At that space. And so I was so curious. And there was a wonderful older woman in my class and who lived maybe a half hour away. And I was like, do you want to get together once a week and just trade this, kind of learn how to do it with each other for once a week? And that was my first time I was 2 little kids. I also gave myself like 2 hours a week of like, this is something that I don't know what it's actually creating, but it was looking back, I was like, oh, I was following the energy of something that like, I was like, this is the direction of my future,
Interesting. So it wasn't even something that was cognitive. It was like this undercurrent of energy that was pulling you towards being more curious. Like what else? If I could feel like this after that one class, what else is possible? What else is available with whatever these tools are? So it I guess, motivated you to keep going and to explore even more with it.
That's it. And I love that you put it's like an undercurrent because it wasn't, I didn't, it was, oh my gosh, kind of things are showing up different. I don't seem to get like the front row parking spot, or someone called me and was like, hey, can I take you to a concert with me? And I started to put together And I was just waking up happy to change diapers and hang out at home. Like I was going, and I was like, the only thing that changed is so I just kept going, okay, like, let's just, and I was so grateful for the little things showing up. I wasn't, and that then turned into like it when you're grateful, those little things turn into so much more.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So where were you living at the time? You were in Chicago or the Midwest?
Now I chose, interestingly, to move back to Indiana, where I'm from, to a very small town from Chicago, which was also quite a shock after being
Yeah. So that's so having this sort of point of view or this desire, it's a little bit different. That's not like something that's common, especially coming from a small town, right? Where like, we're all brought up to be like, hey, get married, be happy with your neighbors. You have 2 kids, 2.5 kids, plus a dog. Like that's, right? Hopefully you have good insurance, benefit, good benefits. You know what I mean? It's like, that's enough. What more can, it's like, why should you ask for anything else? But like, can you just talk a little bit about how, like, did it ever make you feel weird that maybe you thought a little bit differently than the traditional Midwestern family or anything like that? Or like, what did that create for you? Like,
well, I knew it was something, yes, I felt like I shouldn't, like exactly what you said, I should be happy with what I have. For most people, they're like, but everything looks good. Like, you seem happily married. I'm like, okay, you have 2 kids. Like it's, everyone looks at you should be happy. And we're taught, especially, I mean, for men too, I'm not going to say this is just for women, but like you should be happy with what you have. And you feel guilty or selfish to ask for more. And it wasn't that I wasn't, well, I will say I wasn't fulfilled, but I was grateful for everything I had. It wasn't like I felt horrible of the lack. It was just like, no, I know there's more to add. It's not about like, so it surprised me when other people didn't have that. Have that, because I kind of, doesn't everyone think this way? And then I have learned, no, some people really are just, and that's okay too. But you have to get yourself out of asking that it's okay to want more.
Right. Awesome. So okay, so here you are now, right? And so from that time to like right now, how long has that been, that time span?
7.5 years.
7.5 years. All right, cool. Can you, because you oversee a lot of different things in Access Consciousness, and you're such a huge instrumental part of a lot of the creations that go on, and you even have your own creation, and probably a lot that I don't even know of, like the Neon Sheep Lounge that you do. It's a monthly call. And in a little bit, I would like you to talk more about that and all your creations. But can you talk about like what were your like go-to tools that you used that sort of started to really, obviously it was the bars. The bars really changed, and you made a commitment to receiving and gifting the bars like on a weekly basis, which is huge. A lot of people don't do that. It surprises me how so many people, I'm like, when was the last time you had your bars ran? They're like 3 months ago. I'm like, wait, what?
I know.
It's like defrags your brain, man. You got to get your bars ran. So, but like, what were your sort of like the other tools that you used in addition to the bars that kind of got you from that time to where you are today? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, these are great questions. Yeah. I love your podcast. So I was really excited to be on here. That is a really good point. So one, that commitment, especially if you are a mom, it is so hard to think you deserve like an hour. Who am I to take a couple hours a week to lay down on a table and get my bars run? But I was like this, and I explained to my husband at the time, I was like, this is saving me. Like I am a more patient mom. I love to play. I can just sit and play with them and not worry about like everything. It was such a contribution. And so that I made a commitment to do that. And then I used all of because I was not working and I, had no money to spend. A lot of people say access is so expensive. Well, the classes cost a certain amount and that create a lot, and they're energetically like, if it's going to create this much change, it costs this. Yeah. There is so much free stuff in Access and the books. So I started with a lot of the books because I love to read. And so Being You, Changing the World, and The Joy of Business. So Being You, Changing the World by Dr. Dane Here, and then Joy of Business by Simone Milasas. And then another one, I think maybe this was even, I don't know the order, these 3. And then the one that is, what's the money one? It's
How to Become Money Work. Money's not the problem you are.
Money's not the problem you are.
I love that one. Yeah.
So that's a really short one. And I read it, and because I used to be a teacher, I was big on taking notes. So I literally typed out all of just the questions you could ask there and some of the exercises. And I, again, made a commitment to wake up like 20 minutes each day before my kids, or sometimes when they napped, I think, because they were still really little and taking naps. And I like sat on my yoga mat and I maybe did some stretches, but I looked through all those and I really asked the questions. And because that's so much about money and creation, and that I was using money and time, like most people do, to say, I can't create more in my life, or I should be happier. Why would I ask for anything more? And somehow we think, well, if I had more time or more money, I could. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna change those. So between reading that book and really using the tools, meaning looking at those questions to ask, changing my points of view around money, starting to carry around like cash in my wallet that I thought a rich person would carry. So every time I looked in it, I felt this sense of like, I have money. I started my 10% account. So I had no job. This means like you put aside 10% to honor you of everything that comes in. So if I would sell a stroller on eBay, like I would take 10% of that and I just put it in a little envelope to start acknowledging money isn't always from a paycheck either.
Right.
So that, and then watching Dane's Tour of Consciousness videos, which are free on YouTube.
Yeah.
Going to the Access website, just like really taking in everything I could.
Yeah.
And using it.
Yep.
Because that started that change with the bars. You know?
Right. And then little by little, you started to see all these amazing things showing up in your life, and you're like, oh, and you started connecting the dots of like, oh my God, and things just started exponentializing for you. Yeah. And one thing that I've noticed is you've always been very, very inquisitive. You know, you like to ask questions that will create greater, not just for yourself, but you have had, like, your questions have this sort of this energy of curiosity that sort of makes everything go like that actually contributes to everybody. And so it's really cool. And it's been a huge contribution. You could see how it's actually affected your life and made your life and your children's life even greater. There's so many directions we can go, but I know you're super, super busy, but like the whole thing about like mothers, I know even with my late wife who passed away, it was one thing that she struggled with was like sort of this pressure to always have to create outside of being a stay-at-home like mom, like somehow that wasn't enough. So it was always this guilt that she would carry. And so, and I don't know why I'm bringing that up, but you've mentioned that a couple of times that was part of what you were going through. And like, yeah, the advanced classes costing whatever they cost, which is totally worth every fucking penny.
Every penny.
But it's like, but when the income is coming, maybe say from a spouse who's not involved, it's kind of be like, hey, you know, can I borrow $1,600 for this thing that you have no clue what it's creating, but it's changing my life and keeping me clean. You know what I mean? So I get that. So, but yeah, the money, and then that's super creative how you just knew to sell things on eBay and start honoring yourself, because in making those choices, like you open up these doorways for you to have money show up in other ways. And again, and it's not always linear too. And so okay, so that propels me to the next question is, talk about like maybe your first involvement with like some of the creations that you started getting involved with in Access.
Yeah. So from there, so I'm reading the books, being like, wow, things are changing. This is really cool. And I remember then I would go to a trade, right, where we'd run bars with people, and they would always talk about what they learned in the foundation class, which is a class you can take after bars. I was like, God, I want to take that class. And it was, I don't know how much it was. I think it was like $1,400 maybe, something like that. And again, like you mentioned, when you're a non-working spouse, you're like, God, how am I going to get $1,400? I was like, okay, I'm into this. Like, ask and see what shows up. And we literally got a phone call from one of those places that find you money, lost money. And they're like, hey, from a house that my husband, like when we lived in Chicago, had sold, there's $1,400, there's like a little more than that in this account that's yours. And minus our finding fee, it's exactly the price of what the foundation place was. Like,
wow. Awesome.
Wow. Okay. And I was like, and I honored that came from my ask. And it was okay that it was like, I didn't make it, but that was my husband. It's because I'm married. No, like that's the universe. It's going to gift you the channels it can gift you.
Exactly.
Like to not deny that. I was like, wow, this is incredible, Yeah. so I chose, and I don't remember totally the order, but like I said, I was a yoga teacher too. So at the time I was getting my bars and then thinking, like I became a bars facilitator so I could teach that class right away. I mean, I took 3 classes right in a row so I could do that. And I more had this plan of I'm going to work with women and yoga and pregnant women and maybe run their bars. And, I had it all figured out here. And I took a social media course because I thought, I don't even know, I had totally rejected having a smartphone. I didn't even have a smartphone. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll get a phone, and I should probably learn this for my yoga business. And so I took a course online on social media. And now that I had done foundation, I'm kind of like watching people on Facebook who are certified facilitators with access. And someone says, hey, I'm looking for someone to do my social media. Does anyone interested? And I like to comment, hey, I just took a course. Nice. So that's kind of what began. It's like that beautiful synchronicity of the universe here. And if you pay attention, you're like, so I started working for that person's business. And then all of a sudden I was working for I don't know how many certified facilitators doing social media, which I had no training in. And then eventually Access Consciousness was like, hey, would you like to work for us and our social media team?
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's brilliant. And so then leapfrogging into the Neon Sheep Lounge. Can you tell me what that's about, and tell the world what that's about, and what you'd like to invite people to with that?
Yeah, so I love this because you brought up so many things. So then like Anthony, you were saying, I get to work with access in all these capacities, like the bars facilitators. And then what's been interesting with coronavirus is we're all at home a lot more than we normally are. I was traveling every weekend practically before. And so now I've had a little more space and just desire to go, okay, what can I contribute to people through my own business too? And so I was playing with this idea of being a neon sheep. So you're not, so many of us feel like the black sheep of our family or the black sheep of our friends. We don't really fit in. And like you said, I know I'm different because I want more, and maybe I'm wrong because of it. And growing up in Indiana, I definitely tried to fit in with all the other white sheep. And so this idea of the neon sheep idea comes from, no, we're all so different and so unique. And it's that you being that difference in the world that is a gift to everybody. Yeah. And an invite to everybody. So recently I created a free Facebook group. Wow. I did a couple of months ago, I did a program, but this is a free Facebook group that anyone can join. And I've been doing these different, Facebook lives in there. And you mentioned the mom thing. My next week's free Facebook live is on banishing mom guilt. Wow. Perfect. And then this week today was day 6. I did a 7-day challenge on how to ask for everything you want unashamedly, to not feel bad.
Yeah, I love that
stuff. And it's been so cool because people are in there contributing to each other, and I get to kind of there's so much in access. So it's fun to look at exactly what you're saying. How do you ask for things and change your life from here 7 years ago to here? Yeah. We've all heard of ask and receive, but how do we really use that with the access tools too? So in looking at what really makes that work. Yeah.
That's awesome. And for the Neon Neon Sheep Lounge, the call that you're doing with the moms, I think it'd be a great idea for husbands too, or the significant others that's in a relationship raising kids. However, and you have the one partner who's having this guilt. Okay. That'd be a good call for you to even listen to, because I know from the man's perspective or the husband or the significant other's perspective, it's like, what else can I do? How can I fix the guilt? Isn't it enough for you to, be at home with the kids and creating and I remember this was a struggle that the kid's mom had went through because she always carried this guilt. It was like she was never happy with what was. And so I think that's a brilliant call. And I think the husband should jump on that one too. That'd be
maybe you should be my guest.
Right. Sure.
Because you're right. It's a really cool perspective, because then you're trying to fix it or make them feel better.
No, I just made it worse.
Yeah.
And then you almost become the enemy, and then she would separate from me because it was somehow it was my fault that I guess I made the seed that made the babies and whatever. It's what's going on here? I'd be happy to jump on there, but no.
Yeah, either come on that one, or let's do a one together about that, because it's really cool to have that's different perspectives and how they play.
Yeah, awesome, absolutely. So, what would you like to see? Okay, so access is one of those things where it's not just for now. It's not just for the next 10 years. I mean, it is something that from my point of view, will go on forever and ever and ever and ever. So what would you like to see, even after your body is gone? What would you like to see the tools of Access Consciousness and your contributions with using the tools to access consciousness to the world? Like, what would you like to see? How would you like to see it impact the world and our planet?
That's it. You know, I recently was just looking at this, and I was running the other day with the Nike Run app, which I would like to listen to. And he was talking about running and he's a coach, right? Because you're listening to him. And he said, you know, my job, a lot of people would think my job is to get you to run faster or a certain time or a certain distance. And he's like, what I've seen is if you don't fall in love with running, then you're not going to stay with it. Because if you're doing it to lose weight or make a certain time, or, you know, that you really have to love the journey. You know, in this case, he was saying love running. And I was like, wow, that's us as facilitators of Access Consciousness. And like you said, it's consciousness is in everything and everywhere. And I was like, what if, you know, my target is just to invite people to fall in love, for lack of a better word, but like really enjoy and have fun with the journey of there is always more in consciousness. The journey of asking questions and seeing the magic that shows up. And are some days going to be hard? Yeah. Cause like, my target would be more people enjoying being alive on the planet, enjoying each other, having ease with each other, like playing on the planet to get like together. And for me, that comes from the daily life being wonderful and enjoying the journey. Like, yes, you're going to have hard days, but when you're like, okay, because what I see when people give up on consciousness, or I don't know if you can, but some people really do, like, you know, kind of like, I'm done, I'm out. And it's like, it's somewhere there was like a target to like fix a problem or fix yourself, or you didn't reach something. And it's like, no, you are not wrong. There's nothing to fix. If you could enjoy the journey of consciousness includes everything and judges nothing, and like enjoy the ride. Yeah. And wonder, like you said, when I ask questions, like I look to my kids so much of like the wonder and awe they ask questions. So I'm like, okay, if that's what I'd love, you know, and that's to me how I see the gift of access. Yeah. It's not about getting somewhere or like learning a method or getting it right. It's like, no, here you go. There's this whole place in the universe. How do you see it? Like, what do you know?
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love how you said, and you have to love the journey, because it is a journey. Because consciousness isn't always easy. If you're really in it for consciousness' sake, right? It's like it does.
Sorry for the spoiler alert.
I mean, it's not a Tony Robbins seminar where it's like raw, woo, and it feels so great, and then 3 days later you're like back down. It's like it does require a certain level of vulnerability and the willingness to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of yourself and others without a point of view. And if we can do that with that constant question in our universe, it has this way, even though sometimes it could be real intense and real difficult, because you're like, ow, ooh, I do that. I am that way. Ooh, you know what I mean? Just like, okay, you know, what can I be? What can I be and do different to change this? And somehow it's sort of like, I don't even know. It's sort of like this type of thing. And it's all of a sudden you realize, my God, my life is so much better. It's greater than it ever was. And not always easy, but it's greater than it ever was. And I'm so grateful. And then it makes you want to do more and contribute more. At least that's what I found.
Me too.
Yeah. And because there is no destination in consciousness, you know, it's more than just fixing the problem. And that's one thing I'd like to talk to you to, just really quick.
Yeah, no.
I noticed that a lot of people have the point of view is, well, I haven't had tragedy in my life, or my life wasn't a mess, or it's not a mess. My life is actually pretty good. So that stuff is just for those people who've had their struggles, or people who need other people who are more like them so they can just feel good about their traumas and dramas. But that's not true. We know a lot of people who are multimillionaires, who have no problems, who are certified facilitators in Access Consciousness. Can you talk about how it's not just for people who have issues?
Right? And I love that. And it's for anyone that desire, like, and it's okay if you find it through a problem. Like I first found bars because I was like, you know, for a problem that I thought I was. So that's okay. And it's okay to sit there and be like, yeah, would I like to change some of these things that look like problems? Yeah. And it's okay to just be happy and also find access and be like, is there more? Because it's that if you are a seeker whether you have a problem or not, or you're in a good space, there's always more. And you know it. And so we've been taught to settle, but if you've got that little itch of like, yeah, but there's something else more, it's like, you don't have to have a problem to use the tools of access, like just get greater. And if you have problems, you can use it to be like, let me change, like, what can I change here? It's not like about fixing you are not the problem, you know?
Awesome. Love that. So how can people find you? Like, where can they find you? All the different places and stuff.
My website, emilyrussell.com would be a good place, because you can, from there, you can find the Neon Sheep Lounge, or type in Neon Sheep Lounge into Facebook and you'll find it. It's a free group. But those places,
Cool. Repeat that, because I kind of interrupted. Like, what was the website?
Emily Evans Russell, and Russell is Russell. And the Neon Sheep stuff is on there and everything else. And
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to have this stuff like that, and truly, what else is possible. And so we'll see you soon. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Anthony.
All right. Talk to you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.